Hello, in this video we are going to discuss how to detect damage that's been repaired on a vehicle, even beyond what you might find on Carfax. This is Dave at AFX and titlerecovery.com. We also have a website called cartitles.com. On a vehicle, you may find that the prior owners have had damage that's been repaired, sometimes through an insurance company. Sometimes it may be catastrophic damage that caused a salvage title or even a junk title. Not all of this damage may always show up on Carfax. Carfax is simply a collection of records from insurance companies. If an insurance company like Allstate or State Farm forwards along an insurance claim to Carfax, it'll show up on that history report. But not all damage shows up. Not every damage claim from an insurance company or even police reports always show up on Carfax. There are some towns and cities that just don't send information to Carfax. It's not required by law. There's some insurance companies that for whatever reason a particular claim may not show up there. So it's important to use records such as Carfax as part of a strategy to really identify damage on a car prior to buying it or prior to lending money on it. A couple scenarios that might come into play. If you had a vehicle that was damaged and the owner did not want to put in an insurance claim, let's say they didn't want their rates to go up, or they were at fault and didn't want to have some type of traffic ticket, they may elect to repair that damage themselves rather than go through the insurance company. In that case, very specifically, it's important to discover that damage because it won't show up on Carfax and it's probably less likely to be repaired correctly. It's something that the owner may try to cut some corners on cost and have the vehicle just look good so they can sell it. Here's a few ways to try to detect that damage. Obviously, you can look at the different panels and make sure the colors match. If a vehicle is repaired and there's dents that are fixed or Bondo that's filled in, at some point they're going to have to repaint over where that damage is. It's very difficult to match colors on paint, especially when it's not done through an insurance company. When a car is brand new, it's going to have a certain color. 3, 4, 5 years later, that color will gradually change over time. So if simply that color code of paint is obtained from the dealership or mixed at a body shop, if they don't account for the fact that the paint may be faded or darkened over time, it's going to show up different. So if you look at a car from the side and you see a fender and a door, two slightly different colors, that's an obvious sign that it may be repainted. By the same token, if you look at the finish of the paint, look down the side of the car, every paint finish is not completely smooth. It has a very slight orange peel or texture to it that can only be seen if you look down the side of the car. It's very difficult to exactly match that finish. That finish was obtained by the direction, the flow, and even the angle of the original paint sprayer that painted that car at the factory when it was brand new. Repainting that car or parts of it because of a repair, you're never going to be able to match that exact same grain of finish on the paint. So that's another way to detect from one panel to another. Remember, an entire panel is going to be painted. You're not going to paint just part of a panel. You're going to start and stop at a seam or at where a door ends and a fender starts. You may also find defects in the paint. One might be a slight drip. If you look and see anywhere in that paint a slight drool or drip where the paint isn't exactly smooth, that does not happen at the factory, especially on newer vehicles. Neither does dust or any other objects embedded in the paint. If you see a little piece of dust or a piece of hair or lint or any other type of thread that's embedded in the paint or under the clear coat, that's not going to happen at the factory. They use hermetically sealed booths with no dust. Everything's taken out of all of the air, and it also has what's called a downdraft or positive flow, so that any dust that does occur in that paint booth gets sucked away from the car and doesn't get in the paint. You see dust in the paint, it's going to be a repair. You also may find overspray. In theory, when you paint a car at the factory, it's painted before any accessories, moldings, emblems, trim is put on the car. So all your painting is metal. So you can paint everywhere and then put on the trim afterwards. Well, when you repair a vehicle, you have to account for the fact that it already has molding on it. It has trim. It has little pieces of chrome. It has tail lights. And so you have to mask those off with tape and hope that when you put that layer of tape that the paint goes on the metal but not on the molding or the tail light or the headlight. So if you look at all the areas where the paint goes right up against another object and you see any kind of overspray, if there's paint on a piece of trim, paint on a molding, that it was done after the fact. It was not done at the factory. A lot of places you can find that is if you open doors, look in moldings inside doors, peel up a piece of molding and see if there's overspray underneath. That's another red flag. You may also want to look at the different panels of metal on a car. Look inside the door jambs, underneath the hood, on the fender wells. When you lift up the hood, every panel on a modern car has a little tag on it. It's a sticker that has the vehicle identification number on it. If the car is not properly masked off with tape, you may get overspray on that VIN tag. If a panel is replaced, meaning that it was damaged beyond the point of being repaired, then that VIN tag won't exist on a replacement part. The part may come from a dealership, but you're not going to get that original VIN number, ID number tag on the new part. So that's going to be another giveaway that that panel is not original. And then beyond that, if you take a step back and look at all the gaps in the car, between the doors, between the fenders, all those gaps should be the same distance. If you find one gap that's bigger or smaller than the others, or that starts out small at the top and gets bigger at the bottom, that is a key giveaway that that piece of metal on one side and the other has been adjusted and not lined up correctly. So the gaps in the metal will never happen from the factory. If they're inconsistent, they're always going to be the same, whether or not it's between a door and a fender, or a fender and a trunk, or any other two pieces of metal. It should always have the same gap in between all of them. And the last thing is, take a look and see if all the parts are factory parts. Most even glass and windshields and door handles will all be factory to that brand. If it's a Chevrolet vehicle, the windshield will be a Chevrolet windshield. Everything will be the same. If you see non-factory parts, again, those have probably been repaired and replaced after the fact. So detecting a repaired vehicle can help you avoid buying a car that's been in a serious accident, especially one that wasn't fixed properly by a repair shop, or maybe even has some title defect, such as a junk title or salvage title. For more information, you can click on our website, cartitles.com, and if you know somebody else who would benefit from this video, click the share button and send it along off to them.